Hello, everyone. Welcome. We are Beauties and the Beast, and we are here for the final podcast. Your Cooties can't stop us. Joining me today, we have Danielle, Veronica, and Isaiah, and I am your moderator, Matthew. So, how is everyone doing?
Pretty good today.
I'm good.
All right. So to start off this podcast, we are going to talk about how we kind of, grew from the start of this pandemic. How did you guys each kind of develop, during this whole pandemic classes and everything? So I'm going to open this up to the floor.
I feel like for me personally, I definitely had a lot of growth, and I actually feel like I had a lot of time for self-reflection as a student, if that makes sense. Definitely wasn't used to the whole online classes, but by right now, it's definitely the way to go for me. And I just realized the type of self-motivation I had to have for myself and really just be focused on my schoolwork.
Yeah, I'm right there with you on that. Self-motivation. I think the semester really it was a good semester, and I know what to expect next semester, and I'm ready for it. And I think online is for me as well. And I know I said this in our last podcast. I don't know if I would have realized how much online is better for me than actually going to school, going on campus.
Yeah.
So like I said, if it hadn't been for this COVID, I don't know if I ever would have gone back to school. So online for me.
Yeah, for myself personally, I had signed up to go back to school in the fall of 2019. And I was on, like I said last time, I was going to take the classes in the spring. Something told me to wait. And then my first semester was kind of that first semester everybody had started the semester online. And it made me be more organized and also hold myself more accountable for what I needed to get done versus me blaming the fact that my professor canceled class or something like that. Like, no, it was the simple fact, like, hey, you're not doing your work. You need to get back on the ball and get your work done. So I would say online classes helped out a lot. And also just keeping me, again, organized, keeping me grounded, keeping me organized, allowing me to do work wherever I was at. So it changed a lot, but it was in for a positive.
Yeah.
A little better.
Yeah, so it was definitely like an experience, coming from, I graduated from high school when we were still in person. And then, when we finally went into online learning, it was a bit of like a shock,
Yeah.
like I was more of a person that kind of learned in the class setting. And obviously, being in an online setting for such a long time, you finally had to, adapt. And I know that, for all of you guys have your own opinions about online, school. You guys all say it's good, and it is good. It has both its pros and cons that we kind of talked about in the final or in our last podcast.
Yeah. Actually, another thing that you just reminded me of is that I know when I would go to class like on campus, I felt a lot of pressure looking at other students understanding the assignment.
Oh, yeah.
And that would make me feel really bad as a student. Like, and I never felt comfortable to reach out. And I'm not saying now I'm too comfortable reaching out to my professor, because I still kind of am dealing with that. Just not feeling confident enough to reach out to my teacher for help. But now I know myself that I can go back and just reread it as many times as I want to, as I need to. And I've just been learning better that way. So that's actually another thing I forgot to mention before. The pressure of actually going to campus and seeing other students achieving, academically. And so now I feel proud of myself, because I don't think I've ever had these grades that I have right now, which are decent for me.
It alleviates that pressure you have from seeing other kids in your class or students in your class like, oh, they're getting an A on their paperwork and then you get a C and you're like, well, what did I do that they didn't do? When now you actually have time to go back, talk to your professor, or even reach out to other classmates and ask them, and then sometimes find out they're in the same boat you're in at times.
Mhm.
I actually like that, that was pointed out, because I do remember that, like, you know, it's sometimes it is definitely very hard to, like, kind of go in class and kind of be like, hey, professor, I need extra help, or, go up to one of your classmates and ask them for help. It is one of those big struggles with in-person learning. And, obviously when we are in online learning, you can just send a quick, message through, message, or, contact your professor. It's so much easier, yet at the same time, it can also be kind of like a burden, because, you have to send it through online, and, not everyone always checks their emails and everything like that. So, that's like probably one of the biggest things that I'm worried about. Um, but, to kind of, continue with how we kind of developed, I kind of, liked online learning, just because, as we had talked about in the last podcast, we were, in our own setting, we're a lot more comfortable. It allowed me to be at least more confident, when we're, doing everything. I'm in the comfort of my own home. I don't have to worry about, like, when I'm taking a quiz, like, I don't have to be like in that classroom setting, like, and just worry that, the professor standing right there, he's kind of like eyeing everyone out. And, you see everyone like kind of, going crazy when they're taking a test or a quiz or something. But when,
Yeah.
when you're in the comfort of your
Anxiety.
home, yeah, and your anxiety is like out of the roof when you're taking, a test or a quiz or something in person. But, that kind of, without that whole pressure of, seeing everyone else struggle, in a sense, it kind of alleviates your anxiety. And I think that's made me a lot more confident person, at least with taking tests and quizzes. How about you guys?
Yeah, definitely for me too. Um, just to go back on like what you said, I didn't even think about that with like the whole like just test taking or quiz taking, like the anxiety and pressure of how much more intense it is when you're surrounded by other people that are feeling just the same way. It's like something you don't even really think about, but we kind of like feed off of each other's energy when you're in a
Right.
in-person classroom setting. So that I didn't even think about that until you brought that up. But yeah, that's one thing I've also noticed is that my anxiety and just like that intense fear and pressure while taking a test or quiz definitely isn't as intense as it would be if I were in person, because I think like I would just be feeding off of the person next to me that's just as tensed up and scared as me. So yeah, I really like that you pointed that out.
Yeah, and like, when you're not stressed out as much, you kind of tend to do better on your tests and quizzes. So
Yes.
very happy that I'm doing better on my tests and quizzes
Yeah.
online.
Yes.
Yes.
Me too.
So we're going to move on to our second topic. How did we handle conflict, group conflict? We can also talk about, we'll talk about pre-pandemic first. So, how we kind of dealt with, whole group conflict, and then, where we're at now with the pandemic, and how we kind of, go through that. So I kind of want to open up first with, when we were in person, when, I was at the college in person, it was kind of a struggle depending on the class. If we were in, let's say, a math class, I know that a lot of the students have to take a specific math class right when they come in. And a lot of students, this math class isn't, uh, you know, the easiest. I forgot the math class. It was math 13 or something. Um, and then you got a lot of people like coming to you for help, and you're all trying to work together as a group, but at the same time it's not working, because it's kind of hard. And then maybe like in a science setting, when I had to take biology, you'd have people that would kind of straggle with you, so they're not actually doing the work, so they're just kind of like, I'd say, being like a leech off of you.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
To go off of what you said, I think dealing with like conflict like that, especially when you're in person and you kind of see them face to face, it's definitely a lot harder to detach yourself away from someone or a student that's like that versus in person. I mean, I'm sorry, not in person, but online, where you don't really have to do the whole speech of, hey, I don't really feel comfortable with you copying off my work. It can just be like a quick text or email or whatever it is through online to be like, you know, stop copying my work type of thing.
Yeah.
Just kind of like how, we
And
have to.
even then, I'm sorry, I cut you
No,
off.
yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
No, even then, it's like working, like we're working online together, texting, FaceTiming. We don't really have a chance to copy each other. So I think instead of saying like, hey, can I copy your work? It's more like, hey, can you help me understand this?
Yes.
And it's, I think everyone gets a better understanding of what the assignment is. Because I know me before group projects, maybe it was because I didn't have the confidence. I just, never really had confidence in school. So I was just super shy, and it would come off as like I didn't want to do the work, or whatever that is, the person who wasn't as involved in the group. So now, after the pandemic, I feel a lot more comfortable. I feel like I know how to ask questions now. I know what to ask, and overall just feel more comfortable with it.
Yeah, I think I've had like the good, the bad, and the ugly during the pandemic with the group projects. Like I had one semester where me and the guy, there was messages in all caps, like we were screaming and yelling at each other. And it was because, just a simple fact, it was respect of time for other people when working in a group setting online. He was like, well, I work 2 jobs and I do this and I do that. I'm like, I understand that, but there's 4 other people depending on you to carry your load for the work.
Yeah.
And then I had another class where our group worked so seamlessly, like we're all still friends right now, to where everything was just perfect. And I
Yeah.
don't know how that happened, but it was just seamless.
Oh,
And I think a lot of that had to do with us being online because we all understood our schedules. So I think number one, even though this is group communication is like the key thing. Like, like even in our group chats, if we all have scheduling conflicts, we try and find some way to work it out. And I think that's like one of the biggest things online with groups is that people have to be mindful. We have a deadline to meet, but we also need to work with each other's schedule. So we're online, you're being forced.
Yeah.
And that's
Me in
one thing
person.
I'm so sorry. I'm just cutting everyone off.
No, you're fine.
I forgot I was gonna say.
yeah, with like group work, I always assumed like, because I was at first, back in high school, I was that like, oh, I'm gonna be quiet, and then when I think I have a good idea, I'll put it out there. But now I've kind of developed into a person that's like, I'm gonna get the work done. I'm gonna see if you guys want to help me. If you guys don't want to help me, I'll kind of cut you off. And that's kind of like how what we kind of do now. In group communication online, it's like you're here with us or you're not with us.
Yeah.
And I kind of like the fact that in when we were in person, it's like even though there might be a person that's like kind of slacking or not doing anything, you still have to kind of do the work. And the professor's gonna be like, oh, good job, everyone. You guys did a great job. Everyone did a great job. Now with, online, you could just be like, hey, professor, this person didn't do anything. And, you're not gonna kind of get these repercussions as much as,
Yeah.
it's not gonna affect you because, you could just pretty much say it. It's like, we all have the ability to do stuff online in with groups, and the fact that we can just be like, hey, professor, this isn't working with this person, there you go.
And just to add on of what you guys are saying, I think that's what's so good about like the whole online setting of this is just because it's easier to it's easier to like take someone out of the group or like to deal with conflict over online because of the fact that we actually don't see them in person, like on a day-to-day basis.
Right.
So it kind of gets like, rid of that awkward feeling of like, ooh, I just, hey, professor, kick him out of our group. And then you're going to have to go in and see him in person like next week on Monday
Mhm.
in person class versus like online, you just kind of stop communicating with them.
Yes.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
because I've
kinda-
turned in. Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, so go ahead.
Because I've turned in plenty of assignments, not this class, but other classes where I've been in a group and let's say there's 4 of us and like 2 people don't want to participate. I just turn in the assignment and then I send them a CC copy of a PDF that they can't edit and let them know like, hey, I turned this in without your name on it. So you could go talk to the professor about it.
Yeah.
Kind of,
Yeah.
I'm gonna kind of throw this out here. What were you guys' perception of each other, when we first, met? What was your
That's
guys'
what I was
perception?
gonna cut Danielle off. I was gonna say I felt really happy with the group that I was with because we are so on top of our messages when we're communicating. We don't stop until we agree on a date that we're gonna meet, a day and
Right.
a time. And we're literally we're just sending out our days available and we're just throwing it out there. And I think that's what made it easy. I think this group flowed great together. There was never someone not responding. I mean, we had that issue, but we were able to resolve it as a group as well. So I think we did really good together.
Yeah, me too. I was definitely nervous just because I was like, man, usually when I get put into group projects, no one's really on the same page, but when I met all of you guys, like off of like the first just initial email that was sent out or just discussion page that we had through the professor on Canvas, I could tell like everyone was very open with communication, and I had a good feeling that people were going to get their work done and put in just as much work as the next person.
Yeah, I had
and
those.
sorry. And
No,
because
go ahead, Veronica.
and because I hadn't known you guys before, talking in this group, I didn't really have expectations of you guys. So the fact that, we just meshed so well was good. Danielle, take it away.
Yeah, because I like I said, I've had the good, the bad, and the ugly. So like I kind of try and fill people out. Like I went back through some of the discussion posts and stuff. I was like, okay, who am I working with? And then I was like, okay, this should work, but we're gonna find out. And then I'm glad it did work out the way it did. Like we're not bickering at one another, or we're not saying I'm not doing blah 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 blah. It's like, okay, we have to get this done. Let's get this done as soon as possible and knock it out. And I absolutely love that because I'm like, the sooner we get it done, the sooner I don't have to worry about it.
Sorry, just to add on just of like what everyone is saying, but I really like how it all worked out that we are all super understanding of each other's schedules. And I feel like I'm super busy and I don't usually find that many other people in like my circle that are just as busier or maybe even busier than me. So I'm glad that, we all kind of really understand and just value the importance of being on time and respecting other people's times and schedules, like how Danielle mentioned earlier.
I do like actually how Danielle mentioned that she kind of looked through the old discussions and all the other things. I did the same thing. Don't you worry. I checked like everyone's to see who submitted theirs, like, on time and, really relatively early. And then, who kind of submitted it a little bit later. But I was glad that you guys all were pretty fast, pretty early on those discussions. To kind of close out with our third and final question, how did you guys expect this class to go? Kind of seeing how this class was meant for in-person because it is a group discussion or group communication class that seems more meant for in-person. How is it being online, especially that, because I looked that this class is going to be in person for next semester.
Oh, I was actually scared at the beginning of the semester when he was like, well, you guys can come to the campus and work in your groups. And I was like, my schedule is not going to allow that. Like, I have 15 minutes to walk in the door and get ready for a class. Yeah, no. So I was actually kind of happy about it that we stayed online, that we were able to express the fact that we wanted to do, whoever wanted to work online versus going in person, or who wanted to kind of do hybrid. And I'm glad that worked out for all of us, because our professor was great at trying to keep everyone who needed to do whatever one they felt comfortable with together. So I really enjoyed that. I will say to those meeting in person next semester, good luck. Especially if you haven't had an in-person class in quite some time.
Yeah.
Mhm.
This is actually my first ever communications class I've ever taken. So I didn't really know, my expectations weren't so high. I really didn't know what to expect. But the one thing that was surprisingly easier for me versus if I were in person, was definitely the whole like just putting myself out there. Like just to give an example, that first initial FaceTime call that we did to, kind of all introduce ourselves and, start planning out what we were going to do for the group assignments. This is something that's so small, but it's a big deal for me, is that I didn't have my camera off. I actually I felt more like comfortable, I guess, leaving my camera on. I don't even really do that for some of like my Zoom classes, but I noticed that having this class online definitely made it easier for me to actually communicate effectively with you guys. Like, I don't know how I would have handled that if I were in person, just because of like what Danielle said, for the people that are taking this class next year. Not only is it one of the first in-person classes in a really long time, but it's also a class where you have to communicate with others. So I definitely don't know how I would have handled that if we were in person, but having this class online made it so much easier for me to put myself out there and be able to effectively communicate with all of you guys.
Yeah, it definitely broke the ice for me.
Yeah.
I don't think I could have done this class in person for my first semester. I'm super shy in person, but for some reason, when I'm recording myself and I'm making a video for the class, I feel super comfortable and I love it. I feel like I'm on a YouTube. I feel like it's my YouTube channel or something. So
Yeah.
that's the way I was seeing it, and I had a really good time. That's why I'm saying if I had gone in person, I don't think it would have gone as good, to be completely honest. So yes, good luck to everyone who takes this class next semester in person.
Yeah.
I mean, shout out to POF. I mean, I had POF um, for Intro to Communication um, back when we actually had to sign up for our first actual online classes. And I mean, POF did an amazing job with kind of just laying out what we had to do, and then, kind of giving us tips. Even though, we weren't actually in front of him, we still did these videos for him, and he kind of critiqued us and told us how to improve. So I'm just saying that, like, for this class, he still did an amazing job giving us tips, on how to kind of progress and everything. Um, I also kind of want to say that, like, for the people who are going to be taking this class in person, good luck. Uh, I think for POF, I think POF should actually record those meetings for when when they do go in person. Record those meetings, because you never know, with everything happening in the world, could go back online,
Yeah.
and recording those
Yeah.
would probably be really
Yes.
good. So the absolute final question to pretty much end the podcast: how do you guys enjoy this class? I know that for some of you guys, it is your first class or your first college class for a while, or it's been a long time since you guys
Yeah.
started a college class. So how was it for you guys, and how was it how has it influenced how you thought about college now?
Yeah.
I don't really hear the question. I'm so sorry.
Oh, okay. How did you guys enjoy this class? It's been a long time for a couple of you guys that haven't done college in a long time. So how was that experience coming back, and did you enjoy it and everything?
Yeah, I know for me personally, I actually really, really enjoyed this class. Like I said, this was my first communications class, and I did not know what to expect. And I remember, like, on some of like the first couple of assignments, we had to record ourselves and post it. And that made me a little nervous because I was like, oh my gosh, I kept messing up on my recordings. I had to like re-record like 5 times, but I actually really enjoyed the outline of this class. And I really learned how to get a little bit more comfortable with working in a group setting like this, and overall just handling certain conflicts, whether it was the conflict we had in the beginning versus conflict of schedules. Like we had mentioned earlier, I loved that everyone in this group was always putting out a solution to a problem. There was never no excuses for why we couldn't make it. It was always like, man, you can't make it this day. Well, then what about this day? What about this time? So it really made me realize just how to communicate with others effectively. And it made me respect people's time that much more.
Yeah, and I think for me, I picked up a lot of skills in this class that I've been able to carry out at work, at home, with friends. And I work at the bank, so I'm talking to people all day. And some of the assignments that we had, like it really helped me communicate, listen, understand, and paraphrase with my customers that I see at work. But I don't know, back a couple years ago when I went to college, where my mind was, and I think the time that I took off, I grew and I came back ready for the semester. So I'm excited to move forward and to continue my education.
Yeah, for myself, I think I've been through almost all the professors in the communications department since I've been back at Solano. So I think POF is like my last one. And I can say this was probably the easiest out of all of my communications courses, just because I was, especially recently at work, was able to take a lot of the course material and apply it to situations at work recently. And it worked out great in my favor, not for everybody else's favor. And they were like, you really know how to talk your way through things. I'm like, because I'm trying to get the best solution for our group as a whole. So I would say I'm thankful for that, especially because it's going to help me out in the future with my career. And just overall, just taking a lot of the information I received, not just because of this class, but also dealing with COVID still, and learning how other people function when classes are in online settings, and seeing some people just stressed out and learning how they're coaxing with that versus people who are like just easy breezy with the whole situation. So I just say I'm like forever grateful and thankful.
Yeah, I know, like this class, like I really enjoyed this class. Like I had said earlier with Pop is a great professor, lays out everything pretty well. And, I really enjoyed this class. I think one of the biggest takeaways that I could take from the modules is actually like actively listening. We kind of understand that, like, we all have different lives. All of our schedules don't always match up. And, we took the time to kind of listen to each other, list our own ideas to how we approach certain things. Like with our first podcast, how we kind of listen to it, how we want to kind of structure, the whole podcast and what we wanted to say. And basically, how we wanted, to just, take these podcasts down. It's crazy to think that you would think that a group communication class online wouldn't be the most helpful because it's an online, but that's actually false, and it actually teaches you a lot.
Yeah.
So
I think this is the class that I got the most knowledge from. It was definitely my favorite class.
Me too.
Yes.
It's one of those classes where it wasn't just I was studying or reading to memorize facts, but it was legit helping me real world situations and the stuff that I was intrigued and interested, just because it really did help me outside of that school life. It was something that you can apply to everything.
It's
Right.
genuinely interesting. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Any closing thoughts before we close this podcast?
No, I mean, I had so much fun with you guys this semester. Thanks for being such great first time like group communication members, and a shout out to Poff because he was an excellent professor. Definitely like super great with communication, which is,
Thank you.
I would hope so. And yeah, he did great with this class. I had a really good time.
Yeah, same thing for me. Like I said, I was able to apply a lot of the things that we had learned and went over and experienced in our class to my everyday situation. So thank you, Puff. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I really enjoyed meeting you guys. It was, a fun ride that we had going through all the podcasts, kind of, learning about each other.
Yeah.
So it's been a blast, guys.
Yeah.
So
Hopefully we see each other next semester.
Yeah.
yeah, see each other in some other. I'm taking a communication class. You guys taking other communication classes?
Ooh, no.
No. Oh.
Not next semester.
Well, we'll figure it out. Anyways, we are Beauties and the Beast, and you had joined us for our final podcast of Your Cooties Can't Stop Us. I was your moderator, Matthew, and joining me, we had Danielle, Veronica, and Isaiah. Hope you guys enjoyed our podcast, and we'll see you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.